Kayla checked her gathering satchel one last time, fingers tracing the worn leather straps, making sure the soft lining would protect the fragile herbs she intended to collect. Moon petal only bloomed atop the highest mountain ridges for 3 fleeting days after a full moon. Miss this window and she'd have to wait another month while the wasting fever spread through the lower settlements. "Where are you watching from?" she thought, bitter and quiet. Ever ignored by those meant to see you, forced to prove your worth again and again to people who deemed you nothing before you spoke a word. Sometimes the most crucial moments came unseen. The healer's wing of the palace lay silent this early, most still buried in sleep before the dawn rounds began. Kayla liked it that way. She'd grown up in these halls after her father fell, saving the old Alpha King from a shadow beast 15 years ago. The palace had taken her in, given her food, shelter, and training. But they never let her forget she was here on charity. An orphaned Omega with no family, no pack ties, no worth beyond her skill with herbs and medicines. Lyra, the head healer, found her near the supply room. The elder's silver hair was pinned tight in a bun, sharp eyes sweeping over Kayla with the precision of a hawk. "Going for moon petal today?" "Yes, ma'am. The sickness spreads. 2 days' worth of remedies left," Lyra said softly. "Your father used to gather these even in the worst conditions. He had a gift." "You've inherited that, at least," she added. Kayla didn't know how to take it. Praise from Lyra was rare and always carried a weight. A simple nod was all she managed. "Be careful in the high ridges. Weather turns sharp this time of year. Storms can trap you." "Yes, ma'am." Lyra studied her long, something unreadable in her aged eyes, then pressed a small vial into Kayla's palm. "Warming tonic. If the cold catches you, it'll buy time. Your father gave me one once. Saved me. Consider this my repayment." Kayla clutched the vial, startled. Before she could respond, Lyra had turned away, moving with her usual brisk efficiency. The climb took 4 hours. Kayla knew these peaks intimately, every ridge, every hidden path which led to safe passage, and which were deadly traps in disguise. The moon petal bloomed in a single alpine meadow, accessible only to those daring enough to risk the ascent. She reached it, the meadow carpeted with silvery blue blooms glinting faintly in the sunlight. Working swiftly, she harvested only the mature flowers, leaving the rest to flourish. One of her few clear memories of her father: take what you need, leave what must remain. Respect the mountain, and it provides. By the time her basket was full, the sun had passed its peak. Kayla paused, heart swelling. This harvest could treat 50 patients, maybe more, if properly rationed. The wasting fever would be stopped before spreading further. Then she noticed the sky. It had been clear, endless blue. Now dark clouds had surged up from the north, racing unnaturally fast. A pit formed in her stomach. She'd seen mountain storms, but never this sudden, this violent. She needed to descend now. Halfway down, the wind slammed into her, nearly throwing her off the narrow trail. Snow began thick and relentless, turning the world white. Visibility dropped from miles to a few feet in moments. Kayla pulled her cloak tighter, shielding her face from biting ice. She knew these trails well, but in a blinding whiteout, every landmark vanished. The trees marking the turn seemed identical. Rocks that had guided her were buried beneath fresh drifts. Her hands went numb despite thick gloves. The cold gnawed through her layers, seeking every unguarded spot. She had dressed for a day hike, not a blizzard. The warming tonic rested in her pocket, untouched for when desperation truly struck. If she got lost, if panic took hold, she'd need it then. Trusting her instincts, she pressed forward. Downhill meant safety. As long as she kept heading downward, Kayla knew she'd eventually reach the lower forests where shelter might exist. Then her foot caught on something hidden beneath the snow, and she went sprawling. She slammed her hands into the ice-crusted ground, the impact sending jolts up her arms. Cursing under her breath, she glanced back and froze. It wasn't a root or a rock that had tripped her. It was fur. Pale glinting white with hints of gold clinging to a small wolf pup. The tiny creature lay half buried beneath the storm-driven snow. No bigger than a medium dog, its downy coat seemed to shimmer, even in the storm's gray light. But it was the burns that stole Kayla's breath, blackened smoldering marks, tearing through soft fur, raw and agonizing. She recognized the signs immediately. Her father's journals, the only possessions she still carried, had described them in detail. Shadow beast venom, the same poison that had killed him. Amber eyes cracked open, staring at her with sharp intelligence, and Kayla felt a pang of recognition. This was no ordinary animal. A shifter trapped in wolf form, fighting death with no hope of cure. Logic screamed at her to move on. She should save herself. This pup was already on the edge, and staying meant risking her own life. Every rational thought shouted to leave, but she couldn't. Those amber eyes mirrored what she'd seen in her own reflection countless times alone. Invisible, convinced death was inevitable. "I see you," she whispered, barely audible over the howl of the wind. "You're not dying alone." She lunged forward, gripping the thick fur with both hands, hauling the pup close. For all its size, maybe 40 pounds, it felt impossibly heavy, weighed down by pain. The creature let out a low, pained whine. Their eyes met again, and Kayla saw resignation there. He knew. He wanted her to survive. But she clutched him, tighter arms, trembling not just from the weight, but from the cold gnawing into her bones. Around them, nothing offered shelter. No cave, no hollowed tree, only open mountainside and the storm's merciless fury. The wind tore at her, stealing the fragile warmth left in her body. Hypothermia would strike in less than an hour. The pup had even less time. Two bodies together might tip the balance between life and death. It was simple survival. Shared warmth could mean the difference. There was no choice, only instinct. Kayla sank into the snow, tucking the pup inside her cloak, pressing him close to her chest. He was still warm, alive, despite the injuries, despite the cold. She wrapped herself around him, forming a cocoon, arms holding him tight while shielding her own body. "We're not dying alone," she whispered, voice trembling. The pup shifted, nudging her neck with his small head, a silent gesture of trust, comfort, and surrender. Her eyelids grew heavy. The cold was stealing her consciousness. Sleep in a blizzard meant never waking. Yet her body was shutting down, conserving every last ounce of energy. She fought to stay alert, but exhaustion and hypothermia were stronger. Darkness crept in as the storm raged around them, two vulnerable souls huddled in the snow. Somewhere in her fading awareness, she felt heat pulse from where her hands pressed against him, some unexplainable exchange of energy, life, or bond. The last thing she heard before slipping entirely away was a howl, not the wind, but something alive, deliberate, almost like words. "I found you. I actually found you." When Kayla awoke, warmth met her before thought. Not the fading heat of life on the edge, but real warmth. Something solid pressed against her side. Her back felt heat radiating from another body. She blinked, confusion sharpening as she realized she was still in the snow. Still on the mountain, but no longer alone. The weight against her side was an arm. Human, very real, taut with muscle. A leg tangled with hers, a body, curved around her back, breath warm against the nape of her neck where her braid had come undone. Kayla's heart, slowed by cold, slammed back to life. She tried to shift to see who held her, and the arm around her waist tightened instinctively. "Don't move yet." A low rumbling voice murmured against her neck, rough and deep, still thick with sleep. Still cold. Need to stay close. The voice stirred a memory of the wolf, the dying wolf with amber eyes and fur matted with blood. But wolves didn't speak. Shifters in animal form couldn't speak human words, unless... "You shifted," Kayla breathed. The man behind her froze, every muscle taut. Slowly, carefully, he pulled back just enough for Kayla to roll over and meet his gaze. She had expected someone weak, injured, barely alive. Instead, she found herself staring at possibly the most striking man she'd ever seen. Strong lines carved his face, jaw sharp enough to cut lips, softening the harsh angles. His hair tumbled past broad shoulders, honey gold strands damp with melting snow, but somehow perfect. And his eyes. Amber eyes, the same that had watched her from the wolf's face, now human, intense, fixed on her with an expression she couldn't name. And beneath the remnants of her cloak, he was stark naked. Heat flared to her cheeks. She turned to look away to give him privacy, but his hand rose gently, catching her chin, forcing her gaze back to him. "You stayed," he said, voice rough but deliberate. "I tried to tell you to go to save yourself. But you stayed. I couldn't leave you to die alone," she whispered. Pain, gratitude, and wonder flickered in those amber eyes. "What's your name, Kayla?" she said. "I was collecting herbs when the storm hit. I got lost. Found you. There was no shelter and you were small hurt. I thought at least we wouldn't." Her words tumbled, scattering under his piercing stare. "I'm Dastan," he said quietly. The name landed with weight. Every wolf in the kingdom knew it. Dastan, the Alpha King, who'd claimed the throne 6 months ago after his older brother's sudden death. Dastan, who was supposed to be on a ceremonial hunt in the mountains. Dastan, naked and curved protectively around, a nobody Omega on a frozen mountainside. "You're the king," Kayla whispered. "I am." He didn't move, didn't pull away, just watched her process it with patient intensity. Does that change things? Before she could answer, a howl tore across the mountainside. Another, and another, a chorus that raised every hair on her body. Dastan's eyes widened. His gaze shifted past her, his expression sliding into shock. "By the moon, goddess," he breathed. Kayla rolled to see what drew his attention. 30 massive white wolves stood in a perfect circle, not menacing, but protective. Every wolf had its head bowed, ears flattened in universal submission and respect. They weren't looking at Dastan. They were looking at her. The largest wolf directly before her shifted fluidly, transforming in a shimmer of light and movement into a man with silver-gray hair and ice-blue eyes. Older, perhaps 50, his chest scarred and bare, his posture that of a seasoned warrior. "Your Majesty," the man said, eyes never leaving Kayla. "We've searched for you since the attack. The whole kingdom has been looking." He glanced at Dastan, relief washing over him. "Thank the goddess you're alive," Storm Dastan said, voice threaded with genuine warmth. Kayla caught the affection. "I would have died if not for her." Dastan gestured to Kayla. She fought not to notice any more nakedness. "This is Kayla. She found me dying. Refused to leave." Storm's ice-blue eyes returned to Kayla, and she felt something in them. Recognition, reverence. "She has the gift," Storm murmured. "The ancestral bond. That's why the pack bows to her." "I don't have any gift," Kayla stammered. I'm just a healer's assistant. I collect herbs, prepare medicines. There's nothing special about me." Storm smiled, transforming his stern features into something gentler. "You lay beside a dying king, shared your warmth, your will to live, and brought him back from the edge. Shadow beast venom should have killed him hours before you found him." Kayla looked. Dastan was sitting now, one hand clutching her cloak to preserve modesty, torso bare and glistening in the pale light. Where there should have been black smoking burns, there was only soft pink, new skin. Scars, yes, but fully healed. Impossibly healed. "That's not possible," Kayla whispered. "Shadow beast venom has no cure. My father, he died from it. Everyone infected without the ancestral bond dies." Riven corrected, voice steady. But those with the gift can heal what seems impossible through connection, through shared life force. You healed him while you slept, girl, he continued. Purged the venom with nothing but your will and compassion. The 30 wolves surrounding them lifted their heads and howled again, a sound rich with celebration and recognition. Kayla stared at Riven, at Dastan, whose gaze rested on her with something she couldn't name. Your father had the same gift, Riven said. He saved the old king 15 years ago, which is why the shadow beast venom killed him. Riven continued. He absorbed too much of it from the king. We thought the gift died with him. But you inherited it, he said softly. You just never knew. Kayla's hands shook. This was too much. Too overwhelming. I need to get back to the palace, she said, voice tight. You have moon petal to deliver. People are sick. They need you, Dastan said gently, his hand finding hers in the snow, squeezing it. You saved the king's life. That alone makes you important. Riven's gaze held her unflinching. If the ancestral bond is truly yours, you're invaluable. There hasn't been a carrier in 2 centuries. Kayla's throat tightened. I was just collecting herbs, she said, and to her horror, felt tears sting her eyes. I wasn't trying to be special or important. I just didn't want him to die alone. And that, Riven said quietly, is exactly why the pack recognizes you. The ancestral bond doesn't come from seeking power or glory, he continued, bowing his head slightly. It comes from those who see life as sacred, who cannot walk past suffering, who choose connection over survival. He bowed again, deeper this time. You are true Luna, whether you accept it or not, and this pack will serve you as faithfully as it serves its king. The other 29 wolves lowered their heads again in perfect synchronization. The weight of it, the sheer magnitude, made Kayla want to run screaming down the mountainside. But Dastan's hand remained in hers, warm, steady, anchoring her to this impossible moment. We should get you both down the mountain, Riven said, rising. Your Majesty, can you shift? I think so. The poison is gone. Dastan squeezed Kayla's hand once more before letting go. Though I'll need clothes eventually, he added. We brought supplies, Riven said with the faintest hint of amusement, gesturing to another wolf who trotted forward with a pack of garments in its mouth. As Dastan began dressing behind a conveniently placed boulder, Kayla tried to process the last 12 hours. From invisible healer's assistant to the girl, a pack of 30 royal wolves bowed to. From gathering herbs, to apparently carrying a legendary gift. From expecting to die alone in the snow, to waking wrapped in a king's arms. Her life had never been predictable, but this exceeded anything she could have imagined. One of the wolves approached her, moving cautiously. Pure white with intelligent gray eyes, it pressed its massive head against her hand. Kayla stroked its fur, almost instinctively. The moment her fingers touched it, something shifted like a door opening in her mind. Suddenly she could feel the wolf's emotions, protectiveness, respect, joy at finding their king alive, and underneath it all, a deep, resonant certainty. True Luna. Finally found. Finally here, Kayla breathed, withdrawing her hand. The connection faded slightly, but didn't vanish entirely. She could still sense the wolf, a warm presence at the edge of her awareness. That's the bond, Riven said quietly from beside her. She hadn't noticed him approach. You can feel them now. Once active, it doesn't fade. Every wolf in the royal pack, you'll sense their emotions, location, well-being, and they can feel you too. Your care, your compassion, your strength. I'm not strong, Kayla protested. Riven's smile was knowing. You carried a dying king through a blizzard with nothing but your body heat and will to live. You're stronger than you know. Dastan emerged from behind the boulder, now dressed in dark traveling leathers provided by the pack. Even rumpled and mountain-worn, he looked every inch a king. Powerful, commanding, absolutely out of Kayla's league in every possible way. Let's get down the mountain, Dastan said. The kingdom thinks I'm dead. We should probably correct that before someone tries to claim my throne. The journey down was surreal. The 30 wolves formed a protective ring around Kayla and Dastan, with Riven shifting fluidly between wolf and human form leading the way. The pack had been searching relentlessly for their king since the ceremonial hunt went awry 2 days prior. "Tell me what happened," Riven demanded as they moved through the thinning snow. "We were separated during the hunt. By the time we regrouped, you were gone. Signs of shadow beast activity appeared." "Impossible. They were eradicated centuries ago." Dastan's jaw tightened. "Someone summoned them deliberately. We were tracking an elk when they appeared. 6 of them. I killed 3, but the others got me. Their venom works fast. I managed to shift and run, but the poison corrupted my transformation. Instead of full wolf form, I ended up stuck as a pup. Couldn't shift back. Couldn't access my strength. I was dying. I thought I'd find a quiet place to end it. Instead, I found her." His amber eyes flicked to Kayla, warm and grateful. "The most stubborn Omega in the kingdom, apparently," Kayla muttered. "I prefer persistent." Riven's expression hardened. "Someone tried to assassinate you using forbidden magic. That's an act of war. Do you know who?" "No, but we will. Shadow beasts don't just appear." Dastan's voice carried a promise of vengeance. "Someone with serious magical knowledge summoned them. Someone who wanted me dead." By late afternoon, word of the king's return spread like wildfire. Guards surged forward, servants scurried to spread the news, and within minutes, the courtyard teemed with wolves, in various forms, all pressing close to their returned ruler. Dastan navigated the chaos with practiced ease, accepting their relief and joy while maintaining a calm, authoritative presence. But Kayla noticed he kept her close, guiding her through the crowd, hand steady on her elbow. "The girl who's the girl," a voice whispered. "She found the king, saved his life," another answered. Whispers rippled like wildfire. Kayla longed to disappear, retreat to the healer's wing, where she felt invisible and safe. But Dastan's hand kept her anchored. Lyra appeared on the palace steps, her sharp, ancient eyes assessing every detail. Her gaze swept from Dastan to Kayla, to the 30 wolves still forming a protective circle. "Your Majesty," Lyra said, bowing. "The kingdom mourned. We are blessed by your return." Then her eyes found Kayla, and something in her expression shifted understanding. Maybe even pride. "I see you found more than moon petal in the mountains," Dastan said softly. "I found my life." Then louder, addressing the gathering crowd, "This Omega saved her king. Kayla will be honored appropriately." But first he added, softer again, "I need rest, medical attention, and a full briefing on what happened in my absence. Storm organized the guard. I want every detail from the hunting grounds where we were attacked." Dastan finally released Kayla's elbow, leaning close to murmur, "Stay in the palace. We need to talk soon." Then he was swept away by advisors and guards, leaving Kayla standing in the courtyard with Lyra and 30 wolves who still hadn't broken eye contact with her. "Come," Lyra said, tone-brooking no argument. "You look half frozen and completely overwhelmed. The healer's wing is still your home. For now." The words carried a weight Kayla didn't want to consider. The next 3 days passed in a blur. Kayla tried to return to her duties, preparing medicines, organizing supplies, assisting treatments. But nothing felt normal. Eyes followed her everywhere. Whispers trailed her. The story of how she had saved the king spread through the palace like wildfire, embellishing itself with every retelling. And worst of all, she could feel the wolves, all 30 of them, watching, assessing, acknowledging her presence. Their emotions pressed at the edges of Kayla's awareness constantly. She felt it when Riven was training, sensed the pack's restlessness, noticed their contentment. It was overwhelming, invasive, and she didn't know how to turn it off. Lyra found her in the herb garden on the 3rd evening, sitting among the medicinal plants, head bowed in her hands. "The bond is loud at first. the elder healer said, easing onto the bench beside Kayla. It will quiet as you learn to control it. Like any sense. You can choose where to focus. Kayla murmured. How do you know? So much. I was there when your father manifested. Watched him learn the gift, Lyra said. She was quiet for a moment. He would have been proud of you, saving the king, inheriting his power, following in his footsteps. I don't want his footsteps, Kayla whispered. I just want to be useful to help people. I don't want to be special. Or important. Or whatever everyone thinks I am now. Too late, Lyra said, though her voice was kind. The moment that pack bowed to you, your fate changed. True, Luna. Isn't just a title, it's responsibility. Those wolves would die for you now. The kingdom will look to you for what only someone with the ancestral bond can provide. You can't go back to being invisible, Kayla. She knew Lyra was right, but knowing didn't make it easier. The king has been asking for you, the elder added. Every day Riven reports that you're recovering, but Dastan wants to see you himself. Kayla's heart fluttered at the thought. She'd been avoiding him, unsure how to act around someone she had literally slept beside while he was dying. Perhaps you should ask him yourself, Lyra said, rising, joints creaking slightly. He's in the training yard, recovering through movement, as alphas do. Go, talk to him. Stop hiding in the herbs. Kayla wanted to protest, but Lyra had already left, moving with surprising speed for her age. The training yard lay in the north wing, an open courtyard where guards and warriors practiced. Kayla hesitated, unsure if she even belonged there. She was Omega Healing Track. Combat wasn't her world, yet she heard him before she saw him. The thwack of wood on wood. The rhythmic breathing of focused practice. Kayla peeked around the edge of the doorway and her breath caught. Dastan wore only light training pants, torso bare muscles, gleaming with sweat. He moved through sword forms with fluid grace, each strike precise and controlled. Fresh scars from the shadow beast venom traced across his golden skin. He was beautiful, powerful, utterly out of her league. As if sensing her disdain, froze mid-form and turned. Amber eyes found hers across the yard and her heart skipped. Kayla, he said. He set down the practice sword and walked toward her, and she fought to keep her gaze on his face, not the well-defined muscles on display. Riven said you were avoiding me. I wasn't avoiding. I was recovering, working, trying to understand what happened. Have you figured it out? Nothing makes sense. I'm nobody. I shouldn't be able to do what I apparently did. The pack shouldn't bow to me. You shouldn't. She faltered, unsure what she was about to say. Shouldn't what? Dastan stepped closer. Kayla felt the full force of his heat, of his presence, the way his eyes seemed to see straight through every defense she tried to build. You're nervous, he observed, voice dropping lower. I'm professional. Kayla lied. Dastan reached out slowly, giving her plenty of room to step back. She didn't. His fingers wrapped gently around her wrist thumb, pressing against her pulse. Your heartbeat says otherwise, he murmured. It's racing. You're the king. I'm not used to being this close to royalty. Is that the only reason? His question was soft, intimate, charged with meaning that made her mind go blank. Before she could respond, Riven's voice cut through. Your Majesty Council requests your presence. They've identified the magical signature from the shadow beasts. Dastan's expression shifted instantly, soft to hard. His hand dropped from Kayla's wrist, lingering a heartbeat longer than necessary. Go, Riven said, not unkindly. This conversation involves things you don't need to hear yet. But soon. Soon you'll need to know everything, because what's coming will affect you too. Kayla fled, heart still racing, wrist tingling, where Dastan had touched her. She didn't know what was coming next, but something whispered that the mountain had only been the beginning. That night, soft knocking roused her from restless sleep. She lit a candle and opened the door to find Dastan standing in the corridor, still in his training gear, looking like he'd come from somewhere he shouldn't have been. "Can I come in?" His voice was low, rough, and threaded with exhaustion that had nothing to do with physical fatigue. Kayla should have said no. It was improper, perhaps scandalous, yet something in his gaze made her step aside. Her room was small, barely more than a cell with a bed and desk. Dastan looked absurdly large in the cramped space. He perched on the bed because there was nowhere else, and Kayla remained standing, unsure if sitting beside him would feel too intimate. Couldn't sleep, he admitted. Kept thinking about the attack, about dying in that snow, waking up wrapped around you. His amber eyes caught hers in the candlelight. "I should thank you properly for saving my life." "You've already thanked me," she whispered. "Multiple times, and not properly." He paused, a shadow of worry crossing his face. The council identified the magic signature. "It's Varnick," Dastan said quietly. "A dark mage banished 20 years ago. He's back. He wants my throne. Can you stop him?" "I don't know," she admitted. "He's powerful, and he's summoned shadow beasts, which should be impossible. We're trying to figure out how he did it." Dastan ran a hand through his hair, frustration clear. "Until then, I'm vulnerable. The kingdom is vulnerable." "What do you need?" Kayla asked automatically. Helping was in her nature, no matter her doubts. "Honestly, I needed to see you, to know you were real, that the mountain wasn't a fever dream." His crooked smile was vulnerable, human, in a way she hadn't seen. "Does that sound insane?" "A little," Kayla admitted, finally perching on the bed, standing. Felt ridiculous. The mattress dipped as he shifted closer. Their knees brushed, neither moving away. "I keep thinking about it too," Dastan murmured. "About lying in the snow, certain we'd die. Waking up to your pack bowing to me. It doesn't feel real." Kayla admitted. "It is real," Dastan said softly, fingers reaching to tuck a strand of hair behind her ear. His touch was warm against her cheek. "You're real. And more than that, you're—" He trailed off, letting his hand linger, thumb brushing her cheekbone. Gentle, reverent. It made her chest tighten. "I should go," he said, though he didn't move. "You should." Kayla agreed, yet she didn't pull away. They sat like that, still barely breathing. Candlelight flickering between them. Footsteps in the corridor startled them, and Dastan sprang up. "Tomorrow," he said, voice firm. "Riven wants to train you to help you control the bond. He's waiting in the old training courtyard at dawn." Dastan moved to the door hand on the handle, then paused. "Kayla, I'm glad you're stubborn. If you'd left me in that snow—" He shook his head. "Thank you for being too stubborn to let me die." Then he was gone, leaving Kayla on her bed, face still tingling from his touch, heart doing reckless, impossible things. Training with Riven was both harder and easier than she expected. The old warrior was patient but demanding, pushing her to consciously sense the pack bonds rather than letting them assault her awareness. "Focus on one wolf at a time," he instructed. "Find Neva, the white female with silver markings. Feel where she is, what she's feeling." Kayla closed her eyes, reaching out with the strange new sense. 30 points of warm awareness pressed against her, and she found Neva, easily recognizing her instantly. The female wolf was hunting focused content. "Good," Riven said. "Now pull back. You don't need to monitor her every moment, just check in occasionally, like listening for a conversation in a crowded room instead of hearing everything at once." Hours passed, and gradually Kayla learned to dim the noise to focus, or relax at will. Exhausting, yes, but exhilarating. She'd never felt power, never felt special. This was like discovering a sixth sense she hadn't known was missing. Dastan appeared midway through the third day, leaning against the courtyard wall, watching her with obvious interest. He'd swapped training clothes for something more formal, clearly arriving from official duties. She's a natural, Riven reported. Another week she'll have full control. Good. Daston's amber eyes never left Kayla. We're going to need it. Varnick has been spotted near the northern border. He's gathering forces, planning something. An attack. Riven's voice sharpened. Eventually Daston said, finally looking at him. But first I think he wants to test our defenses. See how strong we really are. That's why I need her trained. Properly trained, not just in the bond, but in combat. Self-defense at minimum. I'm a healer, Kayla protested. I don't fight. You will. If someone tries to kill you, Daston said bluntly. Varnick knows about you. Now he knows you saved me, knows the pack recognizes you. That makes you a target. Kayla hadn't considered the danger. She'd been so focused on the strangeness of the bond that the thought of being hunted hadn't crossed her mind. I'll teach her, Riven said. Basic defensive forms. How to avoid and deflect rather than engage. I'll help too. Daston added, pushing off the wall. And so, Kayla found herself in close quarters with a shirtless king learning defensive movements. Riven demonstrated the forms, but Daston guided her, hands on her hips, shoulders, wrists. Wider stance, he murmured from behind her, breath warm against her ear. His hands adjusted her feet, slid up to her hips, repositioned them. Like this. Lower. Yes. Every nerve in Kayla's body came alive. Heat radiated from him. She smelled the familiar scent beneath sweat and exertion. Her pulse thundered. Again, Daston corrected her. She suspected she was failing on purpose now. Focus, Kayla, he said. If someone attacks you, can't be distracted. You're distracting, she muttered, before thinking. She felt rather than saw his smile brush against her hair. Good. Use that. Channel it into your movement. They trained for 3 more hours. By the end, Kayla was exhausted, sore, acutely aware of every place Daston's hands had touched. Her body felt aflame and not from exertion. You did well, he said. Better than I expected for someone who's never trained combat before. I'm motivated, she said. Apparently someone wants me dead. That's concerning. Daston's expression darkened. I won't let him touch you. Neither will Riven nor the pack. You're under royal protection now, whether you want it or not. I never wanted it, Kayla admitted. I just wanted to help people. Be useful quietly. Too late for quiet, Daston said, echoing Leora's words, then softened. But you're helping. More than you know. Just by being here. By existing. Before she could ask what he meant, Riven cleared his throat from across the courtyard. Daston smiled, crooked, vulnerable, less a king, more a man. Tomorrow he promised same-time evasion techniques. Can't wait, Kayla said dryly, heart still racing as she watched him leave. 3 days later, the attack came without warning. Kayla was in the healing wing, tending a guard with a shoulder injury from training when she felt it through the bond terror. Pain, confusion rippling through the pack like a shockwave. She ran instinctively, following the bond's pull to the eastern courtyard. Her blood ran cold. 6 shadow beasts materialized from smoke and darkness, hunting palace guards. Venom spread quickly. 4 guards were already down, black wounds smoking. Riven fought in wolf form alongside 15 pack members. Daston battled in human form, sword glowing with its own light. But they were being overwhelmed. Kayla should have fled, should have gotten help, done anything but what she did. She dropped to her knees beside the nearest fallen guard. What are you doing? Daston roared. Get out of here. She ignored him. The guard's wounds smoked, venom spreading. Kayla pressed her hands to it, reaching for that sensation from the mountain, the pulling, the purging, the cleansing. Golden light erupted from her palms. The guard gasped as the venom receded, drawn out by whatever power she possessed. It took every ounce of focus, but the wound began to close. She moved to the second guard. Then the third. Each purge drained her further, leaving her weaker, more exhausted. But she couldn't stop. Couldn't let them die when she could save them. A shadow beast noticed her, turned and lunged, claws extended. Riven intercepted mid-leap, his massive white wolf form colliding with the creature in a blur of muscle and fury. He tore its throat out before it could reach Kayla, then planted himself between her and the rest. The pack closed ranks, 30 wolves forming a living wall, protecting her while she saved the wounded one by one. When the final shadow beast fell, when the last guard's venom was purged, Kayla's strength finally gave out. Dastan was there in an instant, catching her before she hit the stone. "You brilliant, reckless idiot," he said, voice rough with emotion. "You could have been killed." They needed help, Kayla managed, vision spinning. "I couldn't let them die." "She's drained," Riven said, now in human form, kneeling beside them. "Used too much energy. She needs rest time to recover." Dastan lifted her without hesitation, cradling her against his chest. "My chambers. They're closest." Kayla wanted to protest. It wasn't proper. People would talk, but her consciousness slipped like water through her fingers. She was asleep before they left the courtyard. She woke to unfamiliar softness. A wide bed draped in silk. Walls hung with deep-colored tapestries. Windows overlooking the palace gardens. The king's chambers. And lying beside her on top of the covers, but close enough to touch, was Dastan. His arm stretched across the space between them, palm open as if reaching for her even in sleep. His face looked different, in rest softer, younger, stripped of the weight of command. Her movement stirred him. His amber eyes opened slowly, focus sharpening instantly. "You're awake," he said, voice gravelly from sleep. "How do you feel?" "Like I purged shadow beast venom from 4 grown guards," she murmured. "So? Not great. You saved their lives. Every one of them would have died without you." He sat up still in his training clothes, dried blood streaked across his arms. He hadn't even cleaned up before staying with her. "You terrified me," he admitted, "running into that fight like that. Someone had to help them. Someone did," he said firmly, "but it didn't have to be you. You're too important now, Kayla. The kingdom needs you." His voice softened. "I need you." His hand found hers, fingers twining together. "When I saw that beast go for you, I thought my heart would stop. If Riven hadn't been there, but he was." Kayla interrupted gently. "The pack protected me, just like he said they would." "They did." Dastan's fingers tightened around hers. "Do you understand now why they bow to you, why they call you True Luna? It's not just the bond, it's what you do with it. You use power to protect, not command. That's what makes you Luna Kayla. Not what you inherited, what you choose." "I don't feel like a Luna," she whispered. "I feel like someone pretending to be something she's not." "Then we're both pretending," Dastan said with a crooked smile. "Because most days, I feel like I'm just playing at being king, like any moment, someone's going to realize I have no idea what I'm doing." The honesty in his tone made her chest ache. She squeezed his hand back. "You're a good king. I've seen you with your people, your pack. They trust you. They believe in you." "They trust you too," he said quietly. "Maybe even more than they trust me." He brought her hand to his lips, pressing a soft kiss to her knuckles. The touch made her breath catch. "Stay tonight," he said. "You're still weak and I'm not letting you out of my sight until I know you're safe." "That's not proper," Kayla whispered faintly. "I'm the king," he said, voice low but gentle. "I decide what's proper." But his eyes didn't command, they asked. Kayla should have refused, drawn a line, maintained distance. But she was exhausted, the bed was warm, and his hand was steady in hers. "Just tonight," she murmured, "until I'm strong enough to walk back to my quarters." "Just tonight," Dastan echoed, but the look in his eyes held the weight of hope for more nights like this, for something lasting. Kayla drifted off with his hands still wrapped around hers, feeling safer than she had since the mountain. The days that followed blurred into a whirlwind. Training, council meetings, strategy sessions she was suddenly expected to attend, and rising tension like the pressure before a storm. Reports of Varnik's movements poured in, dark creatures gathering, corrupted wolves, surfacing shadow beasts multiplying, and all of it moving closer to the capital. "We've got a week, maybe less," Dastan warned during a war council Kayla now sat in. "He's coming. The question is, where does he strike, and how do we hold?" "The pack will hold the eastern side," Riven offered, calm but firm. "But we'll need regular soldiers reinforcing the southern pass." Kayla, quiet until now, spoke up. "What about the healers? If a battle's coming, we should be preparing a field hospital. Set it up near the front lines so we don't lose time dragging wounded back to the palace." Several council members stared at her like she'd spoken in tongues. "But Dastan smiled. "That's brilliant." He turned to Lyra. "Can you make it happen?" With Kayla's help, the elder healer nodded. "She's got the steadiest hands I've seen in decades, and the fastest recovery rate I've ever documented." And just like that, Kayla became the field hospital coordinator, while still training with Riven, still attending war councils, still being pulled in every direction at once. She was running on fumes, surviving on scraps handed to her in passing. Dastan found her in the healing wing, late one night, slumped over a table face down in a pile of folded linens. "When did you last sleep?" he asked gently, shaking her shoulder. "I'm sleeping now," Kayla mumbled without lifting her head. "I mean properly in a bed. 3 days, maybe 4. She honestly couldn't remember. With a sigh, Dastan scooped her into his arms. "You're no good to anyone if you collapse. I have work to do. It'll still be there tomorrow. Right now you're sleeping." He carried her through quiet corridors, and she was too tired to even lift her head. When they arrived his chambers again, he set her gently on the bed and pointed. "Sleep. That's an order." "You can't order me," she said, eyes half-lidded. "I'm not one of your soldiers." "Fine. Then it's a strong suggestion. From someone who cares about your well-being." That made her blink. "You care about my well-being?" Dastan sat beside her, expression serious. "Of course I do. You're—" He paused, searching for the right words. "You're important. To the kingdom. To the pack. To me. To you." "To me," he confirmed. His hand came up to cup her cheek, thumb grazing her skin. "Since the mountain, since I woke in your arms, I haven't stopped thinking about you. You saved my life, Kayla. But more than that, you reminded me that I'm still human underneath all this." Kayla's heart misfired again, thudding wildly. "I'm no one. You're the Alpha King. This doesn't make sense." "It makes perfect sense," he said gently. "The pack knows it. Riven knows it. Lyra knows it." He leaned in. "You're my mate, Kayla." The word hit like lightning, something sacred, binding, irrevocable. She'd heard it whispered in the palace, seen the stairs when they stood side by side. But hearing it from Dastan, spoken like a vow, changed everything. "What happens now?" she asked quietly. Now Dastan's smile softened. "Now we fight. We defeat Varnik. And then, if you're willing, we see where this leads. No pressure, no rules, just us, finding our way." Kayla nodded. "I think I'd like that." "Good." He stood but didn't walk away. "Sleep, Kayla. Tomorrow we train. The day after we fight. But tonight," his voice dropped gentle as a lullaby. "Tonight just rest." And she did. For the first time in days, her dreams weren't filled with blood and blades, but with snow and amber eyes and the promise of something worth surviving for. The attack came at dawn 3 days later. Varnick led his army shadow beasts, cursed wolves creatures, out of nightmare, straight for the palace gates. The defenders met them with steel, with tooth and claw. Kayla was in the field hospital when it hit her like a punch to the chest, terror through the bond. Wolves dying. Her wolves. I have to go, she told Lyra. Already moving. The war had begun. You're a healer, not a warrior. I'm their Luna. Kayla cut him off, voice fierce. And they're dying. I'm going. She sprinted toward the eastern flank, where battle cries tore through the air like thunder. Riven was already there, leading the charge with lethal precision. But they were losing ground. Too many shadow beasts. Too much corrupted magic. Kayla reached for the bond and pulled. Hard. Come, she called out to the 30 wolves tied to her heart. Your king needs you. I need you. The response was instant. All across the battlefield, every bonded wolf snapped to attention and turned toward her. And suddenly she wasn't just a healer anymore. She was their Luna, their center, their shield. She felt them every heartbeat, every movement, every breath, and guided them like she was born for it. Neva flank left. Riven 3, behind you. Shadow River reinforced the southern edge. It was like conducting a symphony of fangs, claws, and fury. The pack became a blur of precision and power, moving as one unstoppable force. Dastan held the center line, locked in combat with a beast twice his size, blood streaking his side. He was beautiful, ferocious, but he was faltering. Kayla ran to him, instinct overtaking reason. A beast lunged at her. Riven intercepted midair, ripping it apart. But more came. 2, 3. They were targeting her now. The entire pack shifted formation, circling her in a protective wall of fur and growls. Kayla dropped to her knees, beside Dastan. Just as he fell, his side was torn open, black venom already blooming beneath his skin. No, she whispered, pressing her palms to the wound. Not you, not now. She pulled. The venom fought back, more potent, more violent than before. It burned her palms, laced through her own veins like wildfire. But she refused to stop. Golden light exploded from her hands. It hit so hard the nearby shadow beasts stumbled back with snarls. And then something snapped. The mate bond. It wasn't gradual. It hit like lightning. In an instant, Kayla felt him completely. His body, his pain, his heart, his love. Because it was love. Fierce, selfless, soul deep. The warmth of it roared through her like fire and flood, and the healing intensified. Dastan's wound sealed. The venom burned out of him. His strength returned like a wave crashing back to shore. But it didn't stop with him. The golden light kept growing, spreading from their bond outward, surging into every wolf connected to Kayla. Across the battlefield, wounds began closing. Blood slowed. Strength returned. Even those on the brink stood tall again. At the edge of the light stood Varnick, the dark mage, watching in horror as his beasts melted into smoke. Impossible, he hissed. You're an Omega. You shouldn't have that kind of power. She's true Luna, Dastan said, rising with Kayla's help. His voice rang out like a vow. Bound to her pack. Bound to her king. Your magic can't touch her, can't touch us. The light swelled again. Varnick screamed as it consumed him. His body shredded into shadow and dissolved, burned away by the rising dawn. And when the light faded, the battlefield was quiet. The beasts were gone. Varnick was ash. Kayla stood in Dastan's arms, both of them whole. The pack surrounded them in a ring of reverence and awe. 30 wolves bowed low. Their Luna had saved them. Their king had claimed his mate. The kingdom was safe. That was terrifying, Kayla whispered against his chest. That was magnificent, Dastan murmured, lifting her chin to look her in the eyes. You're magnificent, and you're mine. If you'll have me. I think the bond already made that choice, she breathed. The bond made the connection, he said, his amber eyes steady. But the choice is still yours. Be my mate, my Luna, my queen. Not because you have to, but because you want to. Kayla turned slowly, taking it all in the pack, the battlefield riven, watching with pride the soldiers who owed her their lives. She thought of the mountain, of the snow, of waking wrapped in this man who once felt so far out of reach. And she knew her answer. Yes, she said simply. I choose you. I choose us. I choose this. Dastan kissed her. In front of the pack, the warriors, the wounded, and the whole. It wasn't just a kiss, it was a claim. Fierce, tender, and when they pulled apart, the wolves were howling in celebration. We should probably address the kingdom, Riven said dryly. They're going to have questions, Riven said, about the new Luna who just took down a dark mage with light magic. Let them question, Dastan replied, his eyes fixed only on Kayla. They'll figure it out soon enough. She's true Luna. The pack knows it. That's all that matters. The coronation came 3 days later. Kayla wore white furs trimmed in silver. Her hair, braided by skilled hands, was woven with wildflowers from the northern forest. She stood tall beside Dastan. In the heart of the capital square, 30 wolves encircling them as the people gathered in silence. Lyra stepped forward with the crown crafted in ancient design, polished with moonstone inlay, and gently placed it upon Kayla's head. The kingdom recognizes Kayla as true Luna. Lyra declared, her voice carrying across the courtyard like a bell, bonded to king and pack, queen by right of sacrifice of courage and of love. If any would challenge this, let them speak now. Silence. Not one dared. The celebrations lasted for 3 days and nights. Kayla moved through them in a daze, lavished with praise, approached by nobles and guards and villagers alike. The same people who had ignored her for years now couldn't stop trying to get close. But Dastan was always nearby, always within reach. His touch, his gaze, his grounding presence pulled her back every time the noise got too loud. On the 3rd night, once the formalities had faded and the palace quieted, they finally had a moment alone. Their chambers, his and now hers, felt like sanctuary. How are you feeling? Dastan asked gently, watching her as she unfastened the heavy ceremonial necklace with fingers that trembled slightly. Like I'm going to wake up any second, she whispered, back in my tiny room in the healer's wing. You're not dreaming, he murmured, stepping behind her. His hands worked the final clasp at the back of her neck, fingers warm against her skin. You're queen now, my Luna, my mate. This, he leaned forward, his lips brushing her temple. This is real. I know, Kayla said, turning to face him. It's just... A month ago I was invisible. Now I'm wearing a crown. It's a lot to take in. You were never invisible, Dastan said firmly. You were just waiting to be seen. The mountain saw you. The pack saw you. I saw you. He framed her face with both hands. And now the entire kingdom knows what I've known since that first night in the snow. You are extraordinary. You're biased, she said with a soft, tired smile. Completely. He grinned, pressing his forehead to hers. But that doesn't make it less true. They stood there, quiet breathing together. Then Dastan's voice lowered. If you want to wait, he said softly, to complete the bond fully, I'll wait. No pressure, no expectations. Kayla's heart stuttered. What if I don't want to wait? Then we don't wait, he replied, voice growing deeper, eyes darker. But I need you to be sure, Kayla. Once we do this, the bond is forever. I'm sure, she whispered. I've been sure since the garden. Since you saw me, not as a healer, not as a title, but as me. Since you trusted me with your fears. Since you let me matter. She rose on her toes and kissed him. I choose you, Dastan, for life, for whatever comes next. for everything he said, pulling her closer. And when he kissed her back, it wasn't just a kiss, it was a vow, a sealing of the bond heart to heart, soul to soul. Morning light spilled across the sheets. Kayla lay curled in his arms, the fresh mate mark glowing faintly on her shoulder. She traced the matching mark over his collarbone with her fingertips, still awed by how much had changed. "What are you thinking?" Dastan murmured, voice low and sleepy. "I'm thinking I'm glad I was stubborn that day," she whispered. "If I'd left you in the snow, everything would be different." He finished pulling her tighter. "Everything would be empty. But you didn't leave. You stayed. You saved me. And now we have this. Forever." Forever, Kayla echoed, and for the first time believed it. 4 years later. Kayla stood barefoot in the garden's soft grass underfoot as she watched her 3-year-old daughter giggling like a wildfire in spring. Taya shrieked in delight as Riven in his wolf form let her climb onto his back, tail wagging with exaggerated patience. "Careful, Kira," Kayla called out, shielding her eyes from the sun. "Storm's not as young as he used to be. I can hear you," Riven replied already, shifting back to human with a sigh. "And I'm perfectly capable of entertaining one small princess." "She's not a princess," Kayla reminded him gently. "She's the true Luna's daughter," he countered, eyes twinkling. "Same thing. And I swear she's already showing signs of the bond." Kayla had noticed it too. Kira golden-haired like her father, blue-eyed like her mother, was special. At just 3, she could feel the emotions of the pack, and sometimes when a wolf grew agitated, her tiny hands would touch their fur, and calm would ripple outward. She was Luna-born, and her story was only just beginning. "She's going to be incredible," Dastan said, softly slipping up behind Kayla and wrapping his arms around her waist, just like her mother. "I'm not incredible," she murmured, a small smile tugging at her lips. "I'm just a healer who got lucky." "No," Dastan corrected gently, his nose brushing her neck. "You're my true Luna, the one who saved a kingdom and now stands beside her mate with heart and wisdom. That's what incredible looks like." Kayla watched Taya chasing Riven across the grass, the pack sprawled lazily around the garden, peace woven into every breath they took. And she marveled, really marveled, at how far she'd come. From a faceless assistant in the healing tent, to a queen. From a girl no one noticed, to someone the entire kingdom looked to. But the best part, the part that still stole her breath, was knowing it had all started on a snow-covered mountain, with a single choice. A moment of defiance against despair. She stayed. She helped. She refused to walk away while someone died alone. And that one stubborn act of compassion, it had led to all of this. To love, to family, to a life she never dared dream of, and now would never trade. "What are you thinking?" Dastan whispered, his lips brushing the edge of her ear. "I'm thinking I'm glad I was out gathering herbs that day. That the blizzard hit. That I found you." She turned in his arms to face him, eyes bright. "I'm thinking about every impossible little thing that had to fall into place for us to be standing here right now. And I'm grateful for all of it. Even the parts where I nearly died," he teased, raising a brow. "Especially those," she replied, smile tugging wider, "because they led to 30 wolves bowing to me at dawn. And to you." Dastan's smile turned soft and crooked, the one that made him look more like the man she'd pulled out of the snow than the king the world saw. "You'll always have me," he whispered. "Always. Forever," Kayla said back, and kissed him as their daughter's laughter echoed through the garden, and the pack looked on like guardians of a story still unfolding. The kingdom thrived beneath the rule of a king and queen who chose each other, against every storm, every rule, every odd stacked against them. Some stories start with firelight and bold declarations. Theirs began with an Omega too stubborn to let death win, and a king who awoke to find salvation wrapped in a healer's hands. And that Kayla thought, as Dastan held her tighter and sunlight danced on their child's golden curls, was the only kind of story that mattered. The kind that didn't begin with triumph, but with choice. The kind that proved staying mattered. That giving a damn mattered. That reaching for connection, even when everything told you to survive alone, could change the world. The pack had known from the first moment when they found their king alive, and a stranger guarding him with nothing but her body and her will. True Luna wasn't about magic or bloodlines or strength. It was about this, about choosing to see others as worth saving, about standing in front of suffering and saying not today, about holding out your hand when you didn't have to. And if that made her queen. Kayla wore the crown without apology, not because she craved it, but because she earned it, with nothing more than who she already was, a woman who couldn't turn her back on pain, who chose empathy over safety, who believed down to her bones that every life had worth. The pack had seen it. Dastan had seen it. And now finally Kayla saw it too. She was true Luna, not because fate handed it to her, but because she chose love every single time. If this story of love, fate, and fierce compassion moved you, subscribe for more werewolf romance journeys. Tell us in the comments what you felt during Kayla and Dastan's path from snowstorm to kingdom. Your support helps keep these stories alive. Thank you for being here. See you in the next tale of alpha strength and werewolf romance.